It's not going out of the port, but actual coming in to the port that determines the success of a voyage. So also, it's not the worldly attractions that improves the individual, but it's our response to the call that's eternal. Swami Atmashraddhanji, who is the editor of Vedanta Kesari, published by Ramakrishna Mutt of Chennai, will now deliver a lecture on the topic Youth and the Call of the Eternal. Over to you, Swamiji.
Now in this session, our emphasis will be to go still further. When you want to change the system in itself comprises of human beings. Swami Vivekananda's famous words, to which he made a reference, Captain Ganesh made a reference, men, these are wanted, but sincere to the backbone, men of character, such men are wanted. Now, men includes women also. Such human beings are important, they are required to change a system. One seed is sufficient to have a whole forest. But the point is, you should have the right seed. This changing the system really means going deeper and changing the human beings, changing their outlook towards life, making them more and more convinced of the higher values of life. And this process of convincing others of higher life of life, it may be to some extent, to some measure, it may be done through events like this. We have a lecture, a series of lectures, we had convention, we have a seminar. But truly speaking, if you have to further go deep into it, it is said values cannot be taught, they have to be caught. And how do you catch them? You catch them when you live with people, when you move with them, you interact with people who are people of character. You know, in our tradition, it is very repeatedly said, we all should have good company, holy company. The purpose of having a holy company is not to simply waste away your time in so-called satsanga. It is to awaken great samskaras in you, to awaken the faith in higher values in life, that holy company is required. The subject for the short talk that I am to share with you by way of sharing some opinion or some ideas is youth and call of the eternal. We are speaking of changing the system, changing the human being, and in that the most important, as we said, is to change, to bring a change in our mind, change in our personality, change in our way of looking at life. In this context, it is very important to remember the importance of exposing our mind when we are young. It's very essential. Youth is that period of life when a human being is at a crossroad. You have to decide many things in life. Possibly some of you would become great professionals. Possibly some of you would become very powerful speakers. Possibly some of you might become like Justice Hegde, who knows. Possibly some of you may take to monastic life like many of the monks here have done or nuns have done. Or possibly you will become very ideal citizens or wonderful politicians. You are at a crossroad. What we call as youth is a crossroad. You have come there, you have several roads open to you, you have to decide which side to go. This youth is a very wonderful period of life. You all are young, you know this, but yet I would spend a little time to make you aware of what it means to be young. First of all, there are some positive things about youth to be said. Now, who is a young person? Who is a youth? Generally, they say between the age of 15 to 30. Some people extend it to 35. Some people reduce it to 25. Different schools of thoughts. But generally, between the age of 15 and 30 is supposed to be a universally agreed upon period for what we call as youth. You are young, which means you are between the age of 15 and 30. And then the graph will start differently. In youth, you have a spirit, the spirit of youth. What does the spirit of youth mean? There's a plus point. You have the spirit of adventure. Because body is young. The age is on your side. So you can decide to go to a big trekking. Maybe you go to Kudremukh, or you go further into Himalayas, or you take a big yacht and go into the air and into the water, or you do something adventurous. If you don't find anything adventurous, you simply take a stone and throw somewhere and see, I've done something great. Of course, that's not really adventure in the real sense, but that's a misdirected energy or misdirected spirit of adventure. Another thing about youth is that youth by nature is very idealistic. He looks for an ideal life. He looks at an ideal teacher. He searches for an ideal teacher, ideal society, ideal father, ideal mother, ideal friend, ideal speaker, ideal system. He wants some ideal by nature. Youth wants that idealism to get manifested in various ways that he encounters life. Youth, therefore, by nature, wishes to follow an ideal. Therefore, you have certain youth figures, an icon, a youth hero. It naturally appeals to the youth because by nature he is idealistic. In nature, he wishes to create a system, create a society, create something new, which according to him is ideal, which according to him is something which everyone should aspire for. The youth has adventure, youth has the spirit of doing something new, he is idealistic, he is young, which means the age is on his side, he can do many things which many elderly people cannot do. There is a positive side of it. But there is the other side of youth also. Let us be aware of it. One thing about youth is that youth is inexperienced. If you have to call somebody as inexperienced, you can also say he is very young. It's obvious, he's young. It means he doesn't have so many years behind him. But then this is also something he should be aware of. And also, youth can be very gullible. He can be taken away for a ride. There's no wonder, therefore, there are so many advertising agencies who run their business only because they appeal to youth. Their main focus of advertisement is youth because youth can be taken for a ride. It's not always necessary that they are going to analyze and an elderly person would do. They are not going to examine what is being advertised, whether it is really good for them, whether they really need it. They may be carried away by their passion, by their need, which may not be a need, but at that point they think it's a need. So they are gullible. Therefore, it is also sometimes said that youth lack wisdom. They lack right thinking. Why? Because they are young, they are inexperienced, they are gullible, they can be taken for a ride. So you have this both sides of the picture of youth. On one side, you have many bright things to say about young people. You have also this darker side to say about the young people. Let us be aware of both because you are all young. You should know about it. Having said this about youth, there is this great statement made in one of our scriptures which says, if you have to take up to a life of virtue, you should take it up when you are young. Yuvaiva dharmashila syat, ko hi janati kada mrityukala bhavishyati. If you have to take up the life of virtue, it is not to be postponed to a post-retirement period but right when you are young. Why should you take up when you are young? Because that is the right time. And who knows? Ko hi janati kada mrityu kala bhavishyati, when the death will come. It means, as human beings, it is very important that we should be drawn towards these higher values or higher ideals right when we are young. Not when we have passed this very important period of our life when we can change ourselves, when we can mold our character. And then, many young people say, let us first enjoy life. Please ask this question, what is this enjoy life? Have you asked this question, what is the meaning of enjoyment? From where does the enjoyment come? What is it that really makes a human being? There's a famous verse which says, Ahara nidra bhayamaithunam cha samanam etat pashubhi manushyebiha. There are 4 things which are common between human beings and animals. These 4 things are ahara, food, meals. Food everybody wants, whether he is a human being or he is a non-human being, for its survival. The only difference is, when the human being wants food, he also makes, because of his superior intellect, provisions for its preservation. He makes it perhaps a refrigerator and he can eat it tomorrow also. And he can season it, he can boil it, which perhaps other beings cannot do. But ahara or food is what a living being wants. Then there is bhayam or nidra, you take first. Nidra, after eating you need to take rest. Without sleep, you cannot be normal. You need sleep. And that human being also sleeps and others also sleep. Again, there is a difference here. A human being may require a nice bed to sleep. He may need an AC. He may require certain things which the animals does not need. And again, you have the bhayam. He has got fear. Animals' fears or non-human beings' fear is the fear of survival. When you are in the wild, some prey may come and you might get affected by or be killed by some other being or animal. Human beings also have fear. But in the case of human beings, the fear can go a little deeper. That's why we have the fear of future in terms of what will happen after so many years. So people have a retirement plan. They have got a post-working plans. They have a security. They have insurance. But basically it is fear. And finally he says maithunam, which means continuing the race. They want to continue the generation. In case of human beings, it is because human beings want to exist. They want that they should exist through their children or through their generation. Their name will be remembered. They would be known for generations to come. But anyway, these 4 things are common. Ahara, nidra, bhayamaithunam cha. Then what differentiates human beings from the other living beings or what we call as animals? There are 2 versions of this verse. One version says buddhi. Another version says dharma. It is a buddhi that differentiates human beings from others, or because of there is buddhi, there is the possibility of understanding what dharma is. And that is how the dharma concept or ideal comes into life. It is the dharma that differentiates a human being from the cattle. Have you ever heard of a dog thinking of becoming a great dog? Or a cow thinking, I will become a great cow? None of these animals have got these desires which our young people have. They want to become great. Somebody wants to become perhaps a great sportsman, or a great speaker, or a great administrator. There is a call for greatness. This call for greatness is very specific to human beings. And that call comes because of its superior intellect. Because man's ability to perceive something higher. Because man has got an inherent capacity to perceive, to be able to put into practice what he considers as higher. Now this call of the higher is what we are discussing here. Youth and call of the eternal. What is eternal? Of course, the Samskrita word or Kannada word will be Ananta. But let us spend some time understanding the word eternal. We have since morning heard a number of talks, very learned and very insightful talks about a person, need for a person to change, need to get inspired with constructive, positive thoughts, the need to change the society, the need to change ourselves. Why do we need to change? Why do we want to make a change in the society? Why do we need goodness? Is a question. Why should we be good? Has somebody sat there on the high sky and said, you should all be good and I should obey him? Or is there some other reason? Now this question, very interesting, in India, we are very fortunate that we have such a wonderful past. We should be more fortunate that we'll have a more wonderful future. But for time being, let's say this, that we're very fortunate that we have had such people who thought over this issue very deeply. They did not care to please anybody. They did not care to displease anybody. There was nobody to frighten them. And that fearlessness made them seek answer to this question, what is a human being? Why he wants to be good? Why should he be good? Where is the need for all these noble things in life? Why not be like any other human being or any other animal? And this kind of deep thinking in our culture, we call it as dhyana. They meditated. You know, there was this spiritual history of India. I wish somebody really makes a vigorous intellectual effort to put it in as big way as it deserves. There was this history of India when 2000 years back minimum, there were people who just did not care for any of the social obligations. They just sat down, closed their eyes and tried to find an answer to this question. And the question is, what is a human being? Who is a human being? What is the real core of a human being? Is this core of human being consists of what we call as body and mind? Now this is the popular thing. We are a body, we are a mind, but what we are anything more than that? What happens to a person when he dies? And where was he before he was born? I want you to think on these philosophical issues. Let us not just be busy with only a few superficial answers to this. Let us go deeper. I'll give you a small example of what it means when we speak of as a deeper answer to this question of what a human being is. A young person was asked by a teacher, a spiritual teacher. He asked him, "Who are you?" The young student, he smiled. He says, "Sir, you know me, who am I?" He said, "Let us an exercise. I will rather ask you. You please answer me. Who are you?" He said, "I am a student." "Well, I am not asking what you are doing. To be a student means you are doing something. I am not asking you what you are doing. I am asking you who you are." Then he took it more seriously. He told his name. He said, "Well, I am not asking your name. I am asking you who you are." He asked him further, and then he said, "Well, I am the son of so and so." Then the teacher said, "I am not asking your relationship with somebody. I want to know who you are." Then he further said, "Well, I am so and so," speaking to his caste, speaking to his language. That again, I am not speaking of your social identity. Then again he said, he asked him further who you are. He said, well, I'm an Indian. That again, I am not asking your nationality. He asked him further who you are. He said, well, I'm a human being. He says, again, I'm not asking your species, Homo sapiens. I want to know who you are. Student was silent. He had not thought over it further. The same way, in our tradition, there have been people who have deeply thought over it. They have asked this question, who we are. And the answer that came to them is what we find in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad. This morning, Swami Vireshananji was referring that one of the Swamijis went to a school and he asked if any of the students had heard about the Upanishads and they could name any of the Upanishads, and none could do. So let me refer to this, that this is Shvetashvatar Upanishad. And there we find a rishi saying, I know the truth. What is that truth? Truth has been put in beautiful English. What is said in Sanskrit, Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam Adityavarnah Tamasah Parastat Tameva Viditva Atimrityumeti Nanyah Pantha Vidyate Ayanaya. I know that Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam. I am that divine being. Adityavarnah, it is of the nature of light. Tamasah Parastat, beyond all darkness. Tameva viditva atimrityumeti, knowing which alone you shall go beyond all this problems of existence. Nanya pantha vidyateyana, you cannot go by any other means than this. Now, this has been restated in beautiful English by Swami Vivekananda when he says, each soul is potentially divine. There is divinity present in every one of us. When we say that we have to do good to others, what we are saying therefore is to say that we are manifesting that divinity. Why should I manifest divinity? Because that's my real nature. Why should I do good to others? Because that's my real nature. You might say, if manifestation of something within me is my real nature, what about those who are not honest? Those who are corrupt? Those who are doing wrong things, unethical things? Are not they manifesting some power in them? Isn't it some manifestation? Well, according to Swamiji, that's a very, very poor manifestation of the real potential that is in them. Goodness is a real manifestation. Doing good to others, doing whatever service you can do to others is a real manifestation of your divinity. Have faith in yourself. Faith not only in terms of, let's say you are a good football player or a cricket player, that you can play well. That's one kind of faith. Another kind of faith, that you can become better. I can become better. I may be at the moment not better in my own eyes, but I can become better. That is also one faith. Have faith in yourself, and then faith I can do better. And from that will come what we call a social good, a real social good, when you can do good to others because you have faith in yourself. Faith, faith, faith. Faith in God, faith in oneself. That is the secret of greatness, Swami Vivekananda said. Faith, Shraddha. In the Chandogya Upanishad, we find the Rishi saying, Shraddhasva Saumya, Shraddhasva, have faith. Don't lose faith. Don't become negative. Both the things are present before you, negative and positive. Every day we experience day, every day we experience night. Do you have faith in day or you have faith in night? Both exist. This constant thinking, internal analysis led to some of the greatest discoveries which we Indians have been blessed with, and that one of them is that man is essentially divine. When youth is responding to the call of divine or the call of eternal, what he is doing therefore is he is responding to become a man of great character, a man who seeks spiritual realization, a person who seeks to manifest that realization in life. Some people ask this question, what is the meaning of spirituality? What is the meaning of religion or being religious? Swami Vivekananda beautifully answers them. He says, to become spiritual is to develop character. Without character foundation, spirituality gets lost only in miracle mongering. We become busy with only certain visions, certain miracles, many of the things which we call as esoteric. We forget the real purpose of spirituality is to build up a great character. While writing the life of Swami Vivekananda, of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda instructed his disciples, make sure that you do not emphasize much on the miracle side of Sri Ramakrishna. Pay more attention on manifesting or explaining his great character. The character which gets manifest in the form of satisfaction, in the form of inner purity, non-violence, truthfulness, or all the noble virtues which every human being requires. So, when we are speaking of this issue of call to the eternal, youth and call to the eternal, let us also go one step further and ask, when we are asking this question, why I should be good, let's go one step further and ask this question. We are all students, most of you are all students. So how much you should know, how much you should learn? Well, you can learn many things. You can go on reading, and you should read. But reading should not just stop, or you're asking about the things should not stop here. In our tradition, we have this question being asked in another Upanishad, the Mundaka Upanishad, which says, Kasmannu bhagavate vijñātam sarvavidam vijñātam bhavatiti. By knowing which shall I know everything else? Can you show me this? Can I know something by knowing which further I need not know? This kind of questions were asked, and Swami Vivekananda has put this ideal beautifully before us in a modern language, and he says, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this divinity by controlling nature, internal and external. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophical inquiry, by one or two or by all of this, and be free. This is the whole of religion. Temples, rituals, doctrine, dogmas, they're all but secondary details. Primary thing is manifestation of the divinity within us. And that divinity gets manifest when we give this higher turn to life. I'll close by just referring to one point. We all seek eternity in life. Even the person who is doing things in a wrong way is seeking the right thing in a wrong way. He is seeking happiness, but in a wrong way. He is seeking eternity in a wrong way. He is seeking security in a wrong way. He is seeking the right thing, but the direction is wrong. So this question was asked, what we really are, what we essentially are. So then the question was answered that we are essentially existence, Sat. We are Chit, we are knowledge, and we are Ananda, we are bliss. Sat, Chit, Ananda. When do you want to be blissful? Do you want to be blissful only today? You want to be blissful always. Do you want to exist only today? You want to exist always. Do you want to be happy here or in America? Anywhere. Do you want to be happy today or tomorrow? Always. This seeking of the eternal within us is to be explored further. In this short talk like this, we cannot dwell upon all sides of this subject, but here is only a small appetizer. Please think over it further on this 150th birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. Take this as an opportunity to getting introduced to Swamiji's teachings. Take up his books. and read as much as you can. Even if you are reading a small little book and put them into your pocket, you have a bookstall outside, and read that number of times, that itself will reveal greater answers, clearer perception of what real purpose of life is. So thank you very much for a wonderful patient hearing and for your wonderful cooperation. Namaskar.
Thank you, Swamiji. I'm sure the youth who are at the crossroad of their lives will definitely take a message from the talk and will definitely try to make their life a better one.